Coming up on All About Android, we're going to talk about a lot of things. We're going to dive into the 10th birthday of the G1 and share some kind of memories from our beginnings with Android. Also, the Huawei Mate 20 Lite, the Xiaomi A2 and A2 Lite, Bluestacks 4, Google Lens apparently coming to the Pixel 3 camera app, and so much more. All About Android is next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This episode of All About Android is brought to you by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans, introducing Rate Shield Approval. If you're in the market to buy a home, Rate Shield Approval locks up your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. It's a real game changer. You can learn more and get started at rocketmortgage.com/Android. And by WordPress. Reach more customers when you build your business website on WordPress.com. Plans start at just $4 a month. Get 15% off any new plan at WordPress.com/allaboutandroid. Hello, welcome to All About Android, episode number 388, recorded on Tuesday, September 25th, 2018. We're your weekly source for the latest news, hardware, and apps for the Android faithful. I'm Jason Howell.
And I'm Ron Richards.
And I'm Florence Ion.
Hello and welcome. Welcome back to the studio, by the way.
Yes,
it's good to have you here.
Back.
I was really out. It was bad.
It's all good.
Bad.
It's great to have you here. Also joining us here in the studio, Matteo Doni, the triumphant return.
Thank you for having me back. I came to reuse the hardware shack again.
Oh,
excellent.
Perfect.
Yes, the entire hardware section is actually dedicated to you.
Someone needs to clean up that shack. Those goats left a mess.
It's true.
It's just a problem.
It's a little stinky
Mateo,
in there.
You blow into town, you leave a bunch of goats and some hardware, and then you get back on a plane. Lord knows where you end up.
The grass looks nice, but goats are just everywhere.
Yeah, outside of the shack it's really lush. It's beautiful.
You've been riding horses all day.
I have.
That's been your afternoon or your morning. I don't know if it was your morning or your afternoon, but you
a bit of both.
You went horseback riding.
We were horseback riding right here around the corner in Glen Ellen.
Dang.
Lovely day.
Oh,
and
yeah.
a bit of sunburn.
Yeah, I was going to say your face matches
just
the
a
red
little.
on your shirt. Yeah.
An unidentified nuclear reaction in the sky.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know what that is.
Well,
We're still trying
really
to figure
could
that
be
out.
anything.
We've got a lot of fun stuff to talk about this week, as we usually do. And we're just going to jump right into it. Before we do, subscribe if you haven't already. twit.tv/AAA. That's our show page on the web. And if you haven't subscribed, you really need to do it right now. And with that, Victor, it's time for the news.
At first, I was wondering what this G1 was. Since Matteo was here, I thought it had something to do with goats, but here's your Android news.
Yeah, Goat 1. You remember 10 years ago, they launched the Goat 1.
Oh, boy.
The T-Mobile Goat 1.
Bravo, Victor, at the relevance.
Very, very good.
And what he's referring to is that 10 years and 2 days ago, in fact, Android made its triumphant, ceremonial, I don't know what it is, some insert adjective. They launched 10 years and 2 days ago. The T-Mobile G1 hit stores as the first Android handset available to the public marketplace. Over the weekend, a lot of people alerted us to it on social. I saw Jason tweeting about it. I piggybacked on Jason's tweet, and we figured we had to reflect on 10 years of Android here.
10 years.
Everyone at the table has got a storied history with Android. I want to know, to celebrate Android's birthday, I want to know, what was your first Android phone and what was your favorite thing about it or about Android in general once you got your hands on it? So, Jason, why don't you kick it off?
I'm not mine doesn't date back as far as some of those here at the table, but mine was definitely the Motorola Droid on Verizon.
Victor Yade, by the way.
I got a cheer. I love it. There was such a marketing push behind the Motorola Droid, and that was totally my first truly smartphone.
They licensed it from Lucasfilm, by the way.
Yeah.
The Droid name.
Yeah, that's right.
And it came with there was a white variant that had R2 painted on the back of it.
Right. I remember that. You never really saw
it. My friend was still using that phone like 3 years ago. I was like, how are you still using it? It's
a keyboard.
And that phone, you go back to that phone now, and it's just it's painful. But then it was power. It felt like power having that phone. And I think the thing that I loved most about it, and it wasn't specific to that phone, it was just the idea that I had the desktop browser experience in my pocket. Because before that, you could get on the internet, but it was a little like, it was made for your flip phone or whatever. It was like a tailored version of the internet of browsing the web.
I still posted to LiveJournal from my phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't have a LiveJournal account.
That's good. Well,
but it was just cool that like I could go to a website and see the actual website and not some like tailor-made like mobile stripped down version of a website. That's what I loved most. What about you, Flo?
What about me?
Yes. What about you, Flo?
Your first Android phone.
My first Android phone was the HTC Incredible on
Incredible.
Big
I remember
Red.
the Incredible. Mm-hmm.
And I had that phone for 3 years. It actually died at the end of a CES escalator because it fell out of my hands and it went poop, poop, poop down this very long escalator at Caesar's Palace. And it ended there for me.
So the Droid Incredible came out in 2010.
Yes.
So what did you use before the Droid Incredible? I also like to know what the phone before Android was. Jason, I want to hear what yours was because I think that's a big distinction as well too.
I had a texting phone from LG.
Okay. Yeah. So you had a feature phone.
With not a capacitive touchscreen, but oh my God, I forgot the name.
Yeah, I forgot the name too.
The other kind of touchscreen that's not capacitive. It was that kind. Resistive. I forgot it. Because I haven't used it in so long.
Yeah,
and it was awful. I had to really press to push a number.
Oh, I remember that era because there were a couple of years there where it was still like straddling between capacitive and resistive.
BlackBerry had a phone like that. I think.
So painful. The screen. I can't remember mine specifically. It may have been an LG Chocolate or something, but it was totally a feature phone. That could play a handful of like a Diner Dash was on it. That I could play. And I was like, wow, this is amazing.
Buy Tetris on every phone that I got just to have one game.
Yes.
So Flo, what did you like about Android and the Droid Incredible once you got your hands on it?
For me, it was about, at that time, I was working at MacLife, so everybody around me had iPhones, and I was on Verizon. Verizon did not have the iPhone at that time.
Oh, yeah,
but also, I was still really into building computers, so it really, intersected in that Venn diagram of I want something really customizable that is not made by Apple. So it's exactly why I geared toward it. And then from there, it was instant love. I had maps, so I was able to more easily get around the city. That year when I got my phone, I took a bunch of road trips by myself in my car because I had Google Maps, free Google Maps at my fingertips. I didn't have to pay for it as long as I had
and that was a big
connection.
Deal. Didn't have to pay for it.
It just empowered me to go out on my own, and I had so many adventures with that phone, and I still love all the pictures I took with it, even though they're so low res. I have them multiply backed up because it was just I had such a great time with my little smartphone.
It was a good era.
Yeah. So good.
What about you, Mateo?
From Europe?
So my first Android device was a T-Mobile Pulse. This was back in the day. I've just popped the link into the spreadsheet. So the T-Mobile Pulse was a rebranded Huawei device for a mobile phone network called T-Mobile.
I was going to joke and say, was your first device a Huawei device? But of course it was.
Sure was. Yeah.
It was a rebranded Huawei device. And at the time, Huawei were an unknown brand, even in Europe.
Yeah. Oh,
They used to make the network-branded devices. They used to make the business-focused network-branded devices. And this was the first pay-as-you-go Android device. T-Mobile was the launch partner for the G1 in the UK as well. And this was their first keyboardless Android device, and it was the first that was also available without a contract. You could buy one of these for less than £200. So that's essentially the first Android device I got, moving up from a Nokia N73, an iPhone 3G, the first one that hit the UK, and a Nokia E71. So the Nokia N73 was the camera-focused 3-megapixel Nokia. The iPhone was, everyone knows the iPhone 3G. And the Nokia E71 was a BlackBerry-like Nokia with a keyboard that was running Symbian.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I remember people used to hack that.
Yes, and that was the whole point. I had specifically the E71, the N73, and the T-Mobile Pulse was you could really do almost anything.
All the
with
Europeans I know where they were just like, they were doing all this cool stuff with their phones. And every time I'd go to Romania, I'd be like, look at this cool thing I did.
And essentially the T-Mobile Pulse is what got me into being quite active on a website called Modaco, Paul O'Brien's website. I then became a contributor and writer for his site, and that's what got me into where I am now.
Wow.
So it was very interesting time. I learned a lot. These devices enabled me to actually take my passion to the next level and get into it to the point where my employment is thanks to the experiences I had with that.
Yeah, that's a big moment. 3.5-inch display, 320 by 480 pixels. Android 1.5, 192 megs of storage. Man,
it had a
1500
trackball.
milliamp hour battery.
And it had a trackball, which was amazing.
Oh, yes. There was the trackball era. I remember this. This was a thing.
Well, speaking of the trackball, that's a good segue to my first phone.
Yeah.
Which was the G1. I actually I'll never forget it. I was working at Revision 3 in San Francisco, and I was on an HTC, I don't know what device it was, but I was on an HTC Windows phone, one of those chunky chocolate bar ones, but with a slide out keyboard, like with the thick black antenna that stuck out. Remember those? And I went to have drinks with a friend of mine who later went on to work at Revision 3, and he was also much like us, Rob DeMillo, good dude, and he had just gotten it. And he had showed me Android and played with it. And I literally left the bar and walked across the street to the T-Mobile shop on the corner of 3rd Street in San Francisco and signed up and got the phone immediately.
Of course,
literally went from the bar straight to get the phone. I was just trying to look on my T-Mobile account to see if I could find the day I opened my account. But sadly, all their online data stops at 2016. So it doesn't go back to 2017. So I can't see my account history. But yeah, so I don't think it was launch day. I think it was like a week later. So
Ron, you beat us, maybe.
Old school.
Oh, yeah.
I'm old school.
I would say so.
Ron beat everybody to the punch.
I knew that,
I'd say
Ron,
you
I
were
knew that you were
second.
there
So that was
early on.
At launch,
Well,
it was August 2009. This was up quite late on.
Yeah. I mean, it was. I was dying on that clunky Windows phone because I could taste the internet, but he couldn't actually use it. You know, like it wasn't. Oh, it was awful. And I gotta admit that dang trackball was amazing. It was just it felt that holding the G1, even with the slide out keyboard, but with the orientation, the full screen, and the UI and all this stuff, it felt like the first time I was holding a device from the future.
Yeah.
Like you know, it really felt like that was the moment where you're like, okay, yeah, I get this. This is gonna be awesome. And never looked back. 10 years later, crazy.
Oh, cool.
I'm getting choked up. It's
okay. It's okay, Ron. It's okay. Take a break.
It's fantastic. Happy birthday, Android. We wouldn't be here without you. Thank you.
It's
Happy
true.
anniversary.
We wouldn't.
Happy
It wouldn't be
birthday,
all about
G1.
Android if it weren't for Android.
It's true. I know. It's set the path. All right. So that was awesome. Let's talk about some other things that are going to be.
Before we move on, though, I do want to share the fact that Android has given us so many wonderful things. It's given us this show. It's given us each other.
Yeah.
It's given us years and years of memories. And it's given moments like the other day at work when the head of our at work, the head of the technology group, slacked me a link and said, "Oh, we were just discussing AR stickers, and look what I found." And it was a segment of the show, me talking and reacting about AR stickers on the Pixel, the Star Wars guys.
Oh no!
And I was like, yep. I'm like, I get around. So, yep.
Well, at least they didn't find the glass video.
I for a moment I thought it was going to be the glass video, but it wasn't. So if anything, Android has given us a legacy of people saying, "Hey, I saw you on the internet talking about that thing." So,
That's so true. So very true.
Yeah.
So obviously the G1 was a big deal for its time. Would we also say that the Lenovo Mirage Solo is as big a deal as? No, we probably wouldn't. But it's interesting, and apparently they've got some new updates to Google Daydream for the Lenovo Mirage Solo headset, which I actually reviewed a few months ago. It's a standalone Daydream headset, but that gives you some at least minimal head tracking. So when you actually move your head in space, you get closer or further away. It's not just rotational. So it was kind of cool. But apparently they're doing some updates to this, and I have a feeling that these are updates that will kind of spring into, future hardware. Maybe we're going to learn more about more hardware at the upcoming Pixel event or Made by Google event. But the new update allows for 6 degrees of freedom hand trackers, including a design for controllers that will enable even more control. It's not just pointing your control anymore. It's actually tracking your hand in space. So these things are getting...
So a little more Oculus-like versus the old version where it was just you waving a wand.
Yeah,
in
totally.
The air.
And pointing it to the right place.
And
now.
it was never. I mean, honestly, it was never aligned properly. I always had to align it in the middle, even on the Mirage Solo.
Yeah. So I think this is good news for kind of the stripped down version of VR that is kind of mobile VR. It's interesting what they're able to do. And in essence, the Lenovo Mirage Solo has really become kind of like the developer device for this next wave of Daydream devices. Google doesn't have its own official headset that falls into this standalone category, but it's a pretty important, I think, to the Daydream development in VR for Android. This device has become pretty important for that.
It's also interesting to see that Lenovo continues to be Google's partner in this space. So they did it with the first AR device back in the day, and now they're moving on to the virtual reality headset. That's a very interesting thing that Lenovo is the preferred partner, not others of their Android partners who maybe have their own VR activities in the background.
I think you're talking about somebody specific. I think you're subtweeting a specific company.
Well, it could be multiple. There's both Oculus with Samsung and HTC with Vive.
There he goes. I just got you. I got you.
Was I
admit
subtweeting? I was implying something. Yes. Real life subtweet.
Exactly.
RLST. All right, Flo, you got the next one.
So this makes me really happy being a person who learned how to drive on a Toyota pickup. I imagine in the future I'd like to have another Toyota pickup, and now Toyotas will have Android Auto, so this is great. I don't have to put a sticky thing in the window to have Android Auto in a Toyota. So that's great. Because now, apparently, after years of resistance, Toyota has agreed to add Android Auto to its cars. They had announced CarPlay back in January, and so now Android Auto is likely to follow. And the official announcement is likely to be in October. I imagine it'll be one of those addendums during the Pixel event. And I guess last week when I was out sick, you guys covered the Renault, Nissan, Mitsubishi alliance to bring Android Auto to their fleets, and I just think about how this just needs to happen, and especially for Toyota, which its in-car like system was just not of this generation.
Yeah,
it was
so
very like in the past versus like when you go into a Hyundai or even a Chevy. So. And I'm just speaking.
What's the matter with Chevys? I mean, like Chevrolet.
No. I just mean like.
Yeah, no.
You said it there with disdain, like you're even a Chevy. Like
and even Chevy. And even American.
Has got some good technology going on in their cars. It's I feel like this is the car dominoes falling.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. Like I feel like the car companies have tried to do it on their own or not at all, to Flo's point, and now they're like, all right, fine, whatever, you guys do it.
Obviously, this is what people want. Obviously, you do it better. You're a software company. We are not. So, all right, fine.
Yeah.
Fine.
Just give it to me. Just give me Android Auto. It doesn't need to be like, let me get into a rental car and plug in my phone. That's fine.
When did Android Auto launch officially? It must have been 3-4 years ago at this point, right?
2014,
so it took, 15? Yeah, so it took a little bit of time to get to this point, but at least they're getting there.
We don't celebrate Android Auto's birthday, do we? Came out March 19th, 2015.
2015.
So mark the date, everyone. We'll celebrate its birthday next March.
I'll do
its
that
fourth
right
birthday.
Perfect. We're done.
Send you all a cal invite.
We're all doing a show from a car.
Yes. That's a really good idea.
So I actually did do that when Android Auto came out. I did a lot of videos in the car. So
makes sense.
It made sense.
Yeah, makes sense.
I like the experience.
Do what you got to do. Eric, I think it's Eric. It's probably actually Eric, and I mistyped his name. Sorry about that, Eric. Wrote an email to say, I've noticed Jason has mentioned on several occasions that the Lenovo Smart Display would give his children access to YouTube. Yes, it is something that I have complained about probably too many times at this point. He says, I own one of the Lenovo 10-inch smart displays myself and love it. So I looked into it. In the Home app, there are actually several settings for YouTube for the smart display, including content filters and disabling YouTube for guests, which are unrecognized voices. He says, I've tested it and it does work. He included this screenshot to kind of show you. From the Home app, from the menu, go to More Settings. Under Devices, you'll find your smart display. His is called Kitchen Display, and then you'll find the options in there. And what is it? It's YouTube restricted mode, so you can turn that off or turn that on to hide songs and videos that might contain inappropriate content. There's a content filter for YouTube TV to kind of adjust per ratings, so only limiting it to G and PG and that sort of stuff. And then, like he said, disable YouTube for guests if it doesn't recognize the voice. The problem is, my big problem with it is that in the visual interface, it still always shows YouTube there. And you can just tap it, right? Oh. And you just tap a video and it will play you a video. It's not like it says, now say something so we can identify your voice. And, we won't play that because you are not the identified voice. So it's still there on the screen. I want to hide it entirely. So it's options are good. It needs more options.
It's so weird because you can long press on apps on the screen on Android and remove them from the main screen and they stay in the app drawer. Yeah. Why wouldn't you be able to do it on this device? Why can't you choose what apps you want to bubble up and then hide the ones you don't want to use? That's weird.
I think it's because they haven't actually planned out that part of the home screen. I sometimes feel like the smart display is a little, like, while it's the product is great, I still feel like the software is a little underbaked because that whole last screen on there is, I mean, honestly, it's just extra. I appreciate the instant access, but I don't really need it.
And because the Lenovo Smart Display isn't just running Android, it's running Android things, from what I understand, which is a different thing entirely.
Interesting.
The plot thickens.
Dun dun dun. So
Android things.
Is that another birthday we have to celebrate?
Yeah, do we have to? I know.
Yeah, this is the. Too many birthdays to celebrate on this episode. We're going to be tracking everything going forward. The birthday episode. All right. So thank you, though, Eric, for pointing that out, because obviously more control is awesome, and it's nice that they do have some controls in there for controlling the content. I want remove YouTube. That's what I want.
I think that we should talk more about this and
make it so.
No, I just mean in the sense of we should continue to air our grievances with the new visual representation of the Google Assistant, because I think Google wants children to watch YouTube. Sure, I get it. They are customers as well, but some parents don't want YouTube.
Yeah.
So make it an option.
I think back to your point is I think you're overestimating the thought they put into it. Is that I think that they just haven't finished. They haven't finished it. Mm-hmm. And how many revs of Android did it take before we had a finished version?
Yeah.
Yep.
But there should be some sort of family umbrella that goes into every Google product. That's what
kind
I'm
of family
thinking.
link. It kind of
exactly.
is that.
It should just be this, I don't know, I'm making this up and I don't know how challenging this is, but an API that you could just plug into something like Android things and immediately make it child safe. I think that would be just a good look for Google to have that ability.
Yeah.
And
I'd be really surprised if they didn't move in that direction for something like the smart display.
Yeah.
They're already showing, even with just the Google Homes, they're putting in a lot of features and functionality that tailor to kids, content for kids. They have kids in mind for in the use cases for that device. So I imagine they'd do the same thing for the smart displays. And it's early. I get it. So I'm not holding it against you.
I just think it should be
it's your birthday after all. So I'm not gonna.
But I do think it should be a higher priority. If you are trying to sell this to parents, it should be a high priority. Yeah, that's my 2 cents.
For households, it's important. And once they finish looking after the children, I would like them to also have cat controls. I don't want my cats watching YouTube and getting unrealistic expectations of what happens on the internet through YouTube.
What cats are allowed to do.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, now we know why your
her
cats
on the
are always
kitchen counter.
climbing on your furniture and stuff.
Oh, don't say that.
Yeah.
Indulging Mateo in this way is how he ended up with a goat hardware shack. I'm just saying.
Cat parental controls.
All right. We've given you plenty of ways to make your next $1 billion, Google, so you're welcome. Let's make our own next $1 billion by thanking the sponsor of this episode of All About Android, and that is Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Who knows? Maybe we're going to save you $1 billion when you buy your next home. Let's talk about buying a home for a minute. You've probably noticed that the interest rates, they're changing. They're changing to the day. It seems like there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to these interest rates and the fluctuation. It causes people anxiety. They don't quite know where it's headed. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about that, and they're calling it the power buying process, and it's super easy. Step 1. You just answer a few simple questions, and they will check your credit for pre-qualified approval. You get pre-qualified. Step 2, Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit. Less than 24 hours to do that, and they'll give you a verified approval, which basically gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Step 3, once you are verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. Now, first, they're going to lock up your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. It's going to lock in that rate, and while you shop, that rate's not going to change. If rates happen to go up, let's say the Fed raises the interest rates, if you're within those 90 days, your rate is going to stay the same. But if the rates happen to go down, your rate will also drop. So it's not like you're locked in at that higher rate. You keep with the market if it drops, but you stay at the quoted rate if it raises. Either way, you're going to win. It's the kind of thinking that you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. So to get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Android. Rate Shield approval is only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data records. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS, consumeraccess.org, number 3030. That's rocketmortgage.com/Android. And we thank Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans for their support. And we're going to jump into hardware, but it's not quite any normal hardware. It's Mateo's Hardware Shack.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, take it in, breathe it in. This is like your shining moment, Mateo. Not 1, not 2, but 3 devices. You've got the hardware section.
Interesting devices. In fact, let me put my little lappy top away, and here's your room.
Great, thank you.
There you go.
So,
all right, what you got first?
So let's start off with the Huawei Mate 20 Lite. So this is the Huawei Mate 20 Lite, which is a change in step from Huawei, because they've launched the Lite version before the actual flagship, which is rumored to be launched on the 16th of October.
So it's a preamble?
It's a preamble, or as some have referred to it, it's a 6.3-inch tease.
Oh.
In the sense that it's a device with a 6.3-inch display and a notch. It's minimal bezel at the bottom because the fingerprint scanner has been put on the back.
Okay.
And on the back, it's a pretty capable device. And the Lite moniker in this case means that it's a mid-range device. It's using the same design language and the same looks as the rumored upcoming flagship, but it's actually a mid-range device, and this is now on sale in the UK for just under £400. So it's not a full-on flagship, but you're getting a lot of value for money. So as you can see, it's a glass back. It's very shiny.
Yeah, it reminds me of the Honor glass
It's not
back,
the Honor 10 or the Honor 9 Aurora back, but it is still quite shiny, and it's a hardened glass. Huawei haven't told us exactly what hardened glass it is, but it's pretty safe to assume that it has been hardened. And it's a nice design. It's reflective, and you can see there's a fingerprint scanner, an LED flash, and 2 cameras. One of them's a 20-megapixel sensor. The other's a 2-megapixel depth sensor. So it's a pretty capable camera. I've been using this on vacation so far here on my road trips in the US. It's performing very well.
So that second camera is all about just depth detection. Doesn't matter that it's 2 megapixels. It's not, you're not using that for actual image.
Exactly. It helps with portrait mode, or if you're using Huawei's aperture mode, it recognizes glass much better.
Oh, okay.
So that depth effect really works quite well now. It's a combination of not only the hardware, but also the software. Huawei's software with the cameras is still excellent. In a way, they're ahead of many other companies in that respect. And on the front, in this relatively wide notch, let's see if we can get the light to catch it appropriately, you can see there's two selfie cameras. One is a 24 megapixel camera.
Ooh, that's a lot of definition.
And the other, again, is a 2 megapixel depth perception one. So your selfie portraits are very good.
No, but they're too sharp. Do you need all
that looks just like you.
imperfections?
As well as the excellent selfies, Huawei's software have a selection of filters and masks and backgrounds that you can add to your selfies, including some very cheesy music. So this is me in the office wearing a Mexican wrestling mask by the looks of it.
Yeah, it's kind of horrifying, yeah.
So this
how
is
your eyes are peeking through there. It's a little weird.
It doesn't look Mexican. That looks Asian almost.
Yeah.
That looks Chinese or something. Yeah.
It's true worldwide wrestling.
Yes, exactly.
So yeah, the selfie camera is a very capable one. It has beautification mode. It has HDR. It's a good selfie camera. The only thing it doesn't have is optical image stabilization. That's all done in software.
Okay.
But it's a 24 megapixel selfie camera.
Well, yeah, and Huawei has been known on their recent phones, like they have an emphasis on AI working, with a special chip on the phone for that AI functionality, and specifically how that ties in with the camera.
Yes,
right?
and this has that functionality. So if you go into the camera in the camera mode, you'll see there's an AI icon there. So you can switch that on and off. So by default, this will recognize scenes or objects. So if I were to point it at my cats, it would recognize cats. At dogs.
If you were to point it at a pork pie, would it recognize food?
Oh, wow.
Maybe. Let's see. So this is a pork pie, a delicacy from the UK. Yes, you can see that it has
it recognized food. It said food on the bottom.
You know who else recognized food?
Point it at Flo and see what happens. Oops.
Won't be able to see that. Oh.
Yep. User error there.
That's okay. Does it say person?
Usually it says portraits.
Portrait or pork pie.
Yes, there we go.
Depending on where you position.
So I've just taken a screenshot of the camera UI here. Yes, it will show portrait modes. It has 22 different modes that the AI chip and software will recognize. And speaking of the chip, this is a new chipset from Huawei. It's a 12 nanometer chipset, so slightly smaller than previous ones.
Okay, not quite Apple's 7 nanometer.
No, not quite. And not quite Huawei's upcoming Kirin 980, but it's a Kirin 970. So it's a this is a Kirin 710. So it's a new higher mid-range chipset from Huawei. Cool. And in day-to-day use, I've had no slowdowns. It can quite happily handle multiple apps, including heavy ones. And this is a selection of pictures I've taken, all taken with AI mode enabled. This is rain at Murrayfield Stadium whilst I was watching a rugby game.
Oh, cool.
So it handles HDR surprisingly well.
Super sharp, by the way. I'm assuming this is Edinburgh.
Yes, this is Edinburgh.
Yeah, it looks super sharp. I can see like all the details on the buildings, and I imagine those buildings have a lot of details in person.
They do. So it sometimes over-softens some details, such as smoke markings in buildings. But it is
enhance, Chloe. Enhance.
Yes. Enhance, Victor. Enhance. So that's Parliament Square in Edinburgh. This was the riding of the marches.
Right.
Around just over 200 horses rode up Edinburgh's High Street, including my better half, Candice. And yes, the camera performs really well. It's not super professional. It's not as good as a Huawei P20 Pro or a Samsung S9 Plus, but for a mid-range device, you're getting a very good camera. The only issue is obviously the lack of optical image stabilization, but the software makes up for that. And this is just an example of the splash mode.
Yeah.
So this is something you do in editing after you've taken a picture. Huawei offer the option of you manually selecting a color from the picture, and everything else in the picture remains black and white apart from that one color. So here I've taken a picture of a red flower and a red flower bed and just left the red as the one color.
That looks really
and it's
nice.
a really
like
cool software feature added into the native MUI 8.2, which this device comes loaded with. So Huawei have thrown out this is the original picture, by the way, with full color. Huawei have thrown out a great device with good software. This, as I said, is a 6.3-inch tease for the upcoming Huawei Mate 20 Pro, which we're expecting to be announced on the 16th of October in London. So we're not sure yet. We hope to see a great device being launched then. But in the meantime, if you don't think you want to spend as much on a smartphone, this one has some advantages, as well as the notch. Some people consider that as an advantage.
It has a Courage port.
It has a Courage port. It has a USB Type-C port.
Yeah.
We'll put these on
The pork pie.
in front of the pork pie. So you see it has a speaker grill, and on the top it's just plain. There's no infrared port, as we've come to expect of Huawei devices recently. And it is a dual SIM device with microSD expansion. The device I have here has 4 gigabytes of RAM and 64 gigabytes of internal storage, expandable with up to 256 gig. And the battery life, the 3,750 milliamp hour
That's
battery,
a big one.
performs really well with the efficient chipset. You get more than a day's use.
I feel like
in heavy
everybody
use.
else gets more battery than we do in the US.
That may be related to the fact that your network coverage is a bit more patchy and less powerful. So your phone needs to pull and try and reconnect to networks more often.
It's our infrastructure. Did you hear that,
yeah,
Jason?
that was an infrastructure
It's our
diss.
infrastructure.
It was.
I've noticed that even with my own devices roaming on US networks, their battery life has decreased in day-to-day.
Interesting.
Look at what we
That makes
do
sense.
to people. Anyway,
Yes,
go on.
I see Victor has found one of the highlights of the selfie camera.
Embolden your
I might need
expressions.
Flo to jump
Go
in here
ahead.
and help.
3D Q
Are you jumping in?
Is that what they call
Yes.
it? Q emojis?
Are you jumping in, Flo?
Yes.
Come on.
Hello.
Oh.
Oh.
Okay,
Hello.
so
Oh,
Hello there. Oh, I want to be a rabbit. Hello. Look at me. I don't have braces.
now, the interesting thing is some of them will actually recognize your expressions and change according to your mood. So do an angry face, and it should go
No,
redder.
this is sad. This is
I don't think it has an angry face.
and this is angry.
Oh, I saw the eyes kind of get there.
Let me try.
Angry.
Oh, there we go. I'm naturally angry.
Oh, I
it's
see.
Yeah.
sun-
Why do you look
Wait,
more angry?
No, I think it just
I'm
detects your
sunburned.
sunburn. Yeah.
It's probably the sunburn. There we go. So you do get the equivalent of Animojis or whatever
Okay.
the fruity branded version is.
Yeah.
And that's all thanks to Huawei's MUI software that's loaded on it. So
Cool.
I'm really happy with this device. I've been really enjoying using it on my road trip and vacation. The pictures are very good. If Victor can show, there's a couple of examples of sunsets, the AI mode enabled and disabled that I put into the shared album.
Does it have NFC?
Let me check. I haven't installed.
Somebody
Android
asked in
Pay.
the chat. Wade County asked in the chat room, so I figured other people might have the same question. Since I do know sometimes
Thinking it might.
sometimes
check.
these things don't have NFC, which is a bummer.
Mate 20 Lite features, yes, NFC.
Yes, it does.
Great.
So
Yep.
you can use this for Android Pay. So this is an example of sunsets in normal HDR. With AI enabled, there's another one which blacks out. Oh, sorry, this is with
Normal.
This is normal. The other one's with AI enabled, so it gives it a bit more of a red tone and mutes some of the other
It
colors.
adds
as well.
dynamism. I can always spell that word and never say it. But
Dynamism.
Thank
I don't know.
something
Dynamism.
like that. Yes.
It seems to emphasize more of the detail in the sky though
Yeah.
than it does on the ground.
Yes.
Everything gets a little darker on the ground, but
So that's sunset in Fort Bragg, California.
oh, very nice.
that it is.
Awesome. So that's the Huawei
So-
Mate 20 Lite.
Yes.
All right.
And moving on, we'll pick an Android One device. In this case, the Xiaomi A2 Lite.
Oh yeah.
So this is a 6-inch Full HD Plus display from Xiaomi.
Ooh, show that map back, by the way, real quick.
Yes. it's a bit of a fingerprint scan.
It's okay.
Thing. So it's
Not any
It's
more
a
than the
brushed
other
metal finish. The antenna bands are very subtly embedded in the bottom, and it's a metal end to the device. So it's from a hardware standpoint, very nicely crafted device, which is relatively slim. This causes the cameras to create a bit of a bump on the back. You can see that.
Yeah.
From a design standpoint, I'm okay with this because it's an inexpensive device. It's around about £175. But I would have preferred had it not had such a big camera bump, and they'd put in a bigger battery, because this is just a 3,000 milliamp hour battery.
That camera bump looks way deeper than it does on their site.
Wait, that's the A2 Lites you were showing. This is the A2 Standard.
Oh,
So
I'm sorry.
There's two of them, that two
Okay,
very
I thought
similar
you said
devices
Lite.
I've
Got
brought
it.
today.
Got it.
So this is very similar in hardware to another device I have, which is the Xiaomi Redmi. This is the Redmi Note 5 Pro. You see that they've put less of a bump on the camera, but they've put a 4,000 milliamp hour battery into this phone. So I'd prefer they had done that, but obviously there's a product decision and a product manager involved here.
Yeah.
This is only a 3,000 milliamp hour battery. It's non-expandable storage, but it is dual SIM. So it's a strange device, but it's Android One, which means it's Google's experience of Android. So it's the Google launcher.
You just showed off that Google feed. It's got that in there.
It's got the Google feeds showing me news about Huawei and other
things it listens to you saying.
Yes. So this is essentially a pure Google Android experience on Xiaomi hardware, very good Xiaomi hardware, with a Snapdragon 660 chipset. This particular model has 4 gigabytes of RAM and 32 gigabytes of storage. On the back, the cameras are, in this case, let me double check.
I'm going to move these pork pies so that they're not there.
So in this case, it's a 20 megapixel camera with a 12 megapixel camera on the back and LED flash in a familiar vertical camera orientation.
That's the new hip thing to do now, right?
It is. Again, no optical image stabilization, but Google's software and the camera software seems to handle things more graciously than the Mate 20. Sorry, the Mate 20 Lite.
I wish we could give you the Moto X4 and have you compare that Android One experience to that, because I'm very curious if it's different depending on region. You know.
Oh yeah, that's a good question. I mean,
I think
it's supposed to be pretty.
The software experience will be pretty much the same.
Right.
Similar, yeah.
How Google's camera app interfaces with the hardware APIs for the cameras themselves may differ.
Yeah.
So there is a combination of hardware and software in this case. What I've noticed is that compared to Xiaomi's cameras, there's less bells and whistles, there's less features.
Yeah.
But some things get handled the Google way. So things like HDR+, things like portrait mode. I'm sure that the equivalent Xiaomi device that this is based on will have different performance in the camera department compared to this one.
Right. Like those Google Play Edition phones way back in the day.
Exactly. But I have noticed monthly software updates with security updates do come to this device. I have been disappointed by one thing. There is no Courage port. There's USB Type-C only.
Specialized dongle. Is there?
So this is the good news about this USB Type-C is it's Xiaomi hardware. So you can get the 59-cent adapters and dual adapters. They will work with this device. I've been shopping on AliExpress, bought a selection of them. They do work great with this. So you don't need to buy the super expensive adapters to go with this device.
Right.
So that's a plus sign. And it also has an infrared blaster at the top, one of my favorite features.
That's very much an international phone feature. Yeah. Like the phones in the US rarely seem to have that IR blaster.
They want us to have that remote on us all the time.
Yeah, it's interesting.
But the good news of this is if you're traveling a lot, in a hotel room, you can use your phone rather than the hotel remote control. That can sometimes enable you to change HDMI input and plug your own device in to the TV. So very useful feature for
And not have
travelers.
to touch the remote. Everybody else is touched in the room.
Yeah.
So this is the Xiaomi A2, the traditional model. No notch at the top, relatively slim bezels, but nothing to shout out about. It's a good mid-range device, quite affordable at less than £200 sterling. It's already available in many European markets as well as in Asia. It's not officially available in the UK yet. You can parallel import one, as I did. But it's rumoured to be coming later in the year to the UK.
What do you mean by parallel import? I've never heard that.
So rather than buying the device from a UK retailer themselves, or known as a grey import, you go straight to a retailer abroad who is willing to ship it to you.
Yes, okay. Like AliExpress.
Yes, like AliExpress stores or eGlobal Central.
Today I learned something new.
So this is a device I purchased from a retailer out with the EU, out with the UK, and they just shipped it to me. So this is a Xiaomi A2, and yes, it's a good device, but there's another one which I'm much happier with, which is the A2 Lite. So this
Happier with the A2 Lite.
Yes.
I'm going to pop this one.
So this is about £50 less expensive than the Xiaomi A2. It's a smaller device. It still has a Full HD Plus screen, but going into my Google feeds, you'll notice it has a notch, unlike the A2.
Yes.
And this is a much more basic device in that it has a Snapdragon 625 chipset. It's a relatively old chipset, but it's still a 14 nanometer one, which means it's power efficient. And in a device of the £100 to £125 price range, this is pretty incredible. Despite the screen being smaller than the A2, they have put a 4,000 milliamp hour battery into the back of it. They've cut back on the design, the industrial design. So the top and bottom of the device are plastic rather than metal.
It does look a little like, I don't want to say cheaper, but it does look.
Yeah, they definitely, that two-toned look always kind of gets in the way.
Yeah. But it is thicker, it's heavier. It has less of a camera bump, as you can see.
Yep. It's shallower.
It's shallower. But in day-to-day use, I actually prefer this to the A2. I've also noticed reception between the two. This has much better reception, probably down to the plastic space for antennas. The Snapdragon 625 chipset performs perfectly well. I've had no problems with it, even playing Goat Simulator. There's, in this case, 4 gigabytes of RAM and 64 gigabytes of storage. Unlike the A2, this is expandable with microSD. So things like Pocket Casts, Audible, Netflix, I can download shows, store them to the SD card, and for traveling, that's a big advantage.
Yeah.
Not only that, it's microSD charging, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but at £120, nothing to complain about.
Oh, micro USB.
Micro USB.
Yes, micro
Sorry.
USB.
How are you charging it with an SD card?
That's the
Just wanted to
next
clarify.
generation of power.
We just wanted to clarify.
And at the top, there's a Courage port, so there's a headphone jack and an infrared blaster.
All right.
So this, in my personal opinion, is a much better buy. You're getting much better value in terms of overall performance. The only real thing you'll miss out on is some high-end gaming will work better on the A2.
Yeah,
and the A2 will take 4K video recording. This only maxes out at 1080p. The cameras are a step down from the A2, but still pretty decent. It suffers a bit more in low light, but if you're taking your standard food pictures, cat pictures, panoramas in good light, it performs perfectly well.
You're eating some
I know.
beautiful
You're eating
food.
some good, nice stuff.
Yes, that's a Scandinavian bakery near my office.
Yeah. It
Very
looks,
tasty.
I could tell.
You almost don't want to eat it. It looks too pretty.
And this is just a sample of 1080p video in some challenging light conditions with diffused light and direct rays. It performs pretty well. So for £125 or just over $150, you're getting a lot of smartphone. And it makes you question, why would you spend, let's say, £400 or £500 on some other devices when you're getting this much value and the pure Google experience at that price point?
Yeah.
We haven't learned that in the US yet.
Well, interestingly, if you go to the Android One webpage and change your location to the UK, some devices won't be visible there. Whereas if you go to the US version of that, the A2 and the A2 Lite are listed.
Interesting.
So who knows? They might be coming to the US soon. I'm just making an assumption based on what's on the Android One website in terms of what they're showing off as part of the Android One program.
That would be a lot. I think that's a really smart move because it's very hard right now in this particular political climate for Chinese companies to really think about the strategy here. So I would think piggybacking off of a Silicon Valley giant would be the best way to do it. Just say, hey, you know what, Google, we'll let you take care of it. Can you just put our branding in there? I feel like makes sense.
It also, I'd say, alleviates some of the doubts some people have about Chinese software. It's all Google software.
Yeah, it's a show of solidarity in of itself.
As long as someone understands what Android One actually means, right? Like there's still a little bit of education there for someone to be like, well, wait a minute.
One love, one heart. Let's get together and feel
But wait a minute,
right.
my other device has Android 9 on it. What's the difference?
Right. Yes.
9's bigger than 1.
Yeah, very true. Right.
But yes,
so that's the Xiaomi A2 Lite.
So there you go. Obviously, these are Xiaomi devices in terms of hardware, Google software, great experience if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
You may lose out on some of the software features that MUI brings, particularly MUI 10, as I have on my device here. This is with a Google launcher, is a very clean UX.
Yes,
very
the
nicely.
notification shade I'm still not a fan of.
It is very functional. It works very well.
It's just the bubbles. The bubbles are a lot for me. I have a thing about bubbles.
And squircles.
Squircle, exactly.
They love their squircles.
Exactly.
Then don't update your Pixel Book because.
Oh yeah, that's right. I know.
There's lots of bubbles and squircles there.
So there we are. That's my hardware shack for this week. Hopefully you enjoyed it.
Yes.
This quarter.
For this quarter. Okay, I will look to renew my lease for the hardware shack.
Well, that's assuming the lease is renewable. There might be
true.
I believe there's a high rise going up in its place now. So
I don't know if you know this or
Ron, too
not, but
soon.
real estate is really, it's really expensive. Like we can get a lot for your shack.
It's true.
Twit Towers in Petaluma. East side.
All right.
Absolutely. All right, Ron, you got the email. Thank you.
Well, yeah. Well, everybody seemed to have loved the rant email last week, but I don't want to encourage everyone to email in rants. But that said, Ryan wrote in and says, I'm going on the record. The folding phone is the stupidest idea I've ever heard of and will be the biggest letdown of whatever year it's released. The fold will never be perfect enough to make the idea an enjoyable experience, and switching back to plastic from glass will only cheapen the feel of the device. That being said, I hope Samsung does it and everyone hates it. Long live the Google Pixel.
Wait, don't forget there's a smiley face emoji.
Yeah, I can't say the smiley. I have to say, Ryan, your tribalism in your alignment with Google Pixel versus Samsung and your positioning against the foldable phone is a concern. That said, you are wrong, sir. The folding phone will be the greatest innovation to come to Android in the next 10 years. So, sorry.
Long live Samsung.
Yeah. Long live Samsung. Yeah. There you go. All right, let's take a quick break and thank our next sponsor. We want to thank WordPress for sponsoring this episode of All About Android. And listen, so when I had a website, I had a vision. I knew what I wanted to look like. I know what I wanted to do. And when I sat down to do it, I chose WordPress.com because with WordPress, there are no limits. I was totally free to create the ultimate online hub that was truly mine and with room to grow as I aimed higher. It's a lovely story, and it's totally true because WordPress is awesome, and they let you turn your vision into a reality when you launch your website on WordPress.com. You can choose from hundreds of designs to match your vision and establish your brand, no matter how much design experience you have. It's hassle-free. WordPress takes care of all the hosting, security, and software updates so you can focus on your site. That's why WordPress.com is so awesome. You can upload images, video, audio, and more, plus import and export content to and from your WordPress website. It's your site, your home, your content. They don't take any ownership of it. They don't keep you from bringing new content in or exporting it out if you don't want to. That's why WordPress is so awesome. They're a great partner to make your dreams come true. So you can grow your audience and reach new customers with built-in search engine optimization, social media features, and marketing tools. And with the WordPress app, you can manage your site on the go. And you can launch your website with confidence, knowing you get help from 24/7 support team when you need it. WordPress plans start at just $4 a month. That's just $4 a month. That's nothing. It's the cost of a cup of coffee in New York these days, and you can have your website. So just for $4 a month on WordPress.com, and you want to do that because guess what? 31% of all websites run on WordPress. It's almost a third of the internet is running on WordPress. Clearly, they're doing something right. So get on board right now. Get 15% off any new plan purchase. Go to WordPress.com/allaboutandroid to create your website. That's WordPress.com/allaboutandroid for 15% off your new website. WordPress.com/allaboutandroid, and we thank WordPress for their support and for being awesome. Thanks, WordPress.
And at some point, Mateo's stack of phones, there's like 6 or 7 phones all like stacked on top of each other, and one of them is buzzing. Which one is it? She's like, ah. That was pretty awesome. Let's see here.
It's the Mafadal one.
It's time. Yeah, I'm surprised the one that was buzzing didn't take the rest of them out.
Yeah.
Like,
Many of them are slippery.
yeah. Oh, yes. Of course they are. All right, it's time for some app news.
Now time for the chill portion of our
Oh, yeah.
feature presentation.
We're going to talk about something blue.
Today we're going to talk about Android apps on the PC. In case you're wondering, you can use Bluestacks, the Android emulator for PC. It was updated to version 4 today.
Is this
It is
NPR?
based on Android 7.1.2. It claims to put such an improvement in performance that it beats flagship device performance. It claims to be 6 times faster than the fastest Android device on Antutu, including the iPhone 10 and Galaxy S9. It really depends on what PC hardware you're using, though. In this case, a Core i7 processor with 16 gigs of RAM and a GeForce GTX 1070 GPU will do it for you.
That's a good one.
Android emulation on PC certainly has come a long way, but I'm here, Florence Ion, to say that it's always much better on Chrome OS. Thank you.
Is it? I'm curious to know if it's much better on Chrome. That's very good.
Thank you.
I think that
Thank you.
we need to do that every once in a while. Come back
I
down.
just figured we would chill.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do definitely think it's very interesting. I'm on the opposite side of the fence right now. I'm trying, so I forgot what app it is that I have installed on here.
On your Pixelbook?
On my Pixelbook, but it lets you emulate Windows because we keep talking about that feature that's coming. Sorry, I'm distracted. I don't remember what it's called. So I'm on that trajectory right now, trying to figure out how to get full usefulness out of my Chromebook.
Yeah. Well, and there's even hints that Google might actually be allowing Windows 10 to be installed
Which
on
incredibly excites me.
a separate volume. Or
Excites me incredibly is what I want to say. I was so excited they came out backwards.
But Bluestacks, like I feel like emulation on Android emulation for however long we've been doing this show has always been kind of, I don't know, a running joke as far as, running Android apps to the same speed that we're used to on a phone, but on a PC. And I never really understood why that was. But Bluestacks is just one way to do that. And apparently they think they've cracked the code.
As a former test engineer who used to set up some systems to run apps in an emulated environment to test features or services, it is very difficult. It's very resource intensive. Any improvement is always welcome. Mm-hmm. There's quite a few vendors offering options for emulation over and above Google with the Android emulator through Android Studio.
Well, they had big announcements about that at Google I/O about the speed improvements and everything.
So everyone's working on it. It's maybe not something that will affect most people in the streets, most users in the world, but for developers, this is very, very important to be able to run automated tests on your apps in a cloud solution or on various devices to be able to emulate different conditions is quite important.
Mm-hmm.
And the GTX 1070, that's fairly recent GPU. So it's not like super...
It's about a year old.
It's not super cost prohibitive, I should say. So you can do what you need on a PC.
Do what you need on a PC running Android apps.
I mean, I get all my work done with a PC and a Chromebook. So I have a nice, perfect little... I'm nestled perfectly.
Yeah. Plus, you can run Linux on Windows 10 now, so...
It's true.
Well, and you can
the world's going crazy.
Yeah, you can run
I just
Linux
cannot
on a Pixelbook.
wait to put Windows 10 on this machine. I'm so excited.
Yeah. That'll be... It's not official yet.
I know it's not, but I can't wait. This is going to be perfect. I'm not going to need anything else.
Ever
In
the history of
I'm
your
running
life.
away with my Pixel Book after that happens.
Into the sunset.
So you travel with just one device?
These days I do. I've really pared down what I travel with, and I do this. I do this as an experiment to show people like
to see
how,
that you can.
Yeah. So I only travel with my Nintendo Switch, my Pixel Book, and my Pixel 2. That's it. I don't even carry a separate camera anymore. I don't need it. I have the Pixel 2.
It's awesome that you bring your Switch too.
Of course, plane rides are so boring.
Yeah,
I could do
that
so
makes
much
sense.
Skyrim, like organizing of my things in my house.
Yeah.
During that time. Anyway.
Well, transitioning into a
news.
different direction, and
I need to stop recommending apps, Jason.
I know when you recommend apps, they get bought out by other companies. And full disclosure, Slack is a Twit sponsor, but longtime favorite app on the show. We've talked about it many times. Astro.ai email app with artificial intelligence kind of baked in, smarts in there to kind of help manage the whole process. Has been acquired by Slack. Slack is apparently aiming to unify its messaging with email communications. Slack, recently got a very large round, like a large amount of funding, and so they've been kind of on a buying spree of a few companies. I think this is their biggest yet so far. No terms of the deal shared. Astro services are going to end on October 1st, while the technology gets integrated into
really
Slack
soon.
itself.
This is such a rough one, because on one hand, Astro is great and I want good things to happen to the people who made it, and on the other hand, I love Slack. I use it on a daily basis. I haven't always agreed with Slack's anti-email positioning. Like Slack originally was meant to kind of like, you don't need email, you've got Slack now. But we all know, like, as someone who has spent a lot of time thinking about productivity and workplace and email and chat and all that sort of stuff, there is a need and a place for email. Like, you need to be able to correspond with people outside of your organization, things like that. And I've wanted Slack to kind of embrace that. If that means they're embracing it with one of my favorite email apps, that's awesome. Sucks that they're shutting it down like in less than a week. And who knows how long it will take to integrate the stuff. So we know good stuff is coming from Slack, but what am I supposed to do until then? It's a bummer.
You should use Inbox for no, don't do that.
You've got until March. I like Dan Seifert tweet about it. He said, well, that's one way to kill email.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Go ahead, Mateo.
Slack's whole reason of existing is that email's considered to be inefficient in many organizations. Slack does away with that inefficiency. And one way to kill email is to buy one of the popular email clients.
Oh yeah, but obviously buying Astro doesn't necessarily achieve that. It really does seem like if Slack's MO was, well, we do what we do and exist outside of email because we think this is better. I mean, at least in this day and age, there will always be teams and people who still insist on using email, and so if you can't totally eliminate them, might as well offer a product and then, cater to even more people as a result of it, integrated in some unique way, and maybe they can come up with something even better. So,
and if you can make it, and if you make it integrated, so you're existing within the Slack environment, and then like you can write an email from Slack, then you don't even know the difference. Like there definitely is a way to bridge the two. Yeah. And I'm excited that they're gonna work on it. But now I'm in the market for a new desktop app, so
you got a week. I've got a couple of months before I have to transition away from Inbox to wherever I'm going, and I'm kind of in the same boat in the sense that I'm like, well, maybe I just need to turn off the Band-Aid because it'll be easier later if I deal with it now. So whatever you choose, let me know, Ron, and I'll check it out too.
Will do.
Yeah.
Not quite sure where I'm going to go.
Although,
I guess I can go back to Polymail. I don't know. We'll see.
See, that's the thing. There's no email. I think I agree with you. There's been a lot of moving away from email, and it's with the whole inbox closure, and I don't know. Yeah. It's just I like email because also, I'm sorry, but I don't like setting a precedent that I'm always available. And that is the problem with a lot of these. Like, I understand it increases efficiency and whatever. It makes people easily accessible, and you can do VoIP calling. But I don't want to be accessible to you after 5 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, well, do a whole show on that.
Well, That's a whole nother conversation. But
Yeah.
Flo, here's the secret: don't respond.
I know.
One of my
Just
auto
close the
responses for
Yeah.
this vacation is thank you for sending me your email. When I return on X date, I will respond to only one email from per sender. And bear in mind, you've already sent me one email.
I thought you were going to say, I'm going to respond to one email. Maybe it'll be yours.
No, I'm more democratic. One per sender.
That still sounds like too much work, because if you're getting emailed by 20, 30 people, that's 20, 30 emails you got to send when you get back. I say just offer, it's just a luck of the draw lottery. One of you lucky emailers is going to get a response. Everybody else, sorry. All right, Ron, you got the next one.
I do have the next one, and I was looking for email apps.
Oh.
All right, so
Times are changing.
The Google Camera app that ships with the unannounced Pixel 3 will have Google Lens embedded in it. As we can't go a week, I thought we'd make it a show without talking about something leaked from the upcoming Google announcement, but here we are.
Nope.
So with Google Lens embedded in the Google Camera app, you'll get real-time analysis of images in the camera app without needing to launch the feature specifically. There's a video revealing this came from a leaked Pixel Tips app that is expected to be on the device. There's another leak. Yep. The video showed the Lens function scanning a business card for an email, opening a composed window for that email address, which, to be honest, is pretty cool. Mm-hmm. So this is the case. Google Lens, Google Camera app merged into one. Makes sense.
Yeah.
So, that's
great.
great.
Kind of baked right in there where you expect it to be. Basically.
When are they going to take fences out of my pictures?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to do that. Or maybe they will, but I don't think they're doing that on any sort of a timetable from a couple of years ago at Google I/O.
Can I just say that Google Lens has been amazing, because I have been buying some very fashionable clothing off of AliExpress. I found like the good brands. I did a lot of research to buy like true Chinese and Korean like stylish clothing, but all the washing instructions are in another language and a character characters I don't know. So Google Lens, all I do is just scan it, and it tells me like how many centigrade degrees I should be washing it in, and if I should tumble dry low. And I really appreciate that. And also, I also tweeted about this, but a 90 Day Fiance has a lot about using Google Translate for like. I know we're talking about Google Lens, but anyway, Did
you just turn Google Lens into Beyonce?
No, 90 Day Fiance. I was just thinking about all the people who use Google Translate to like have relationships. Anyway, it's just crazy.
What are you talking? What?
I don't even know.
I'm talking about Google Lens and how it translated the instructions for me, and then it made me think about all the people out there who have relationships just with Google Translate as like their only way of communicating.
Hang on, does Google translate Florence for us? Because I'd like to know what she's talking about.
That's where my brain went. I had this long streak of thoughts, and I'm sorry, everyone, you experienced that. I'm sorry.
Is this your Italian friend Firenze Ioni?
Yeah. All right. Well, that's
Sorry.
That's our weekly check-in on Google Pixel 3 leaks. Moving on as we're running long.
Oh yeah. Let's actually
jump into a voicemail.
Okay, let's do the voicemail.
Yeah, let's do it quickly.
Tony, what do you got to say to us? Huh? What are you going to say, Tony? Huh?
Hey, all about Android.
Oh, hey.
Tony here in Indiana, second-time caller. Thanks for the wonderful show. My question, what I'm needing some help with today, is I have an elderly parent who is still on a flip phone, non-smartphone, and my wife and I would like to get her a smartphone more so that we would kind of have a location ability to keep tabs on where she is and if she made it home safely, that kind of thing. My wife is an iPhone user, so she's advocating that we take the leap to an iPhone. Boo. Whereas on the other hand, I would like to get her something on the Android. It needs to work on Verizon, and it needs to have about as large of a screen as possible. I don't think she's going to have heavy-duty technical needs. She probably will play a few pedestrian games, but nothing too heavy-duty. But was looking for some suggestions of, what is a good buy, non-contract kind of phone that works on Verizon, sort of in the Moto G kind of line, but maybe with a bigger screen like a Galaxy Note or an iPhone Plus size phone. So thanks for the recommendations. Love the show. Thanks for the help. Have a good one.
I feel like the Verizon requirement makes things a lot more difficult.
So I just want to say the off-contract thing is very difficult to do, especially with Verizon. you have to buy the phone from them outright for it to be not on a contract. And sometimes it's a very tricky process because you don't own the phone when you get it from them. You pay for it in increments because that's how they keep you. It's kinda like a
but
lease,
can't
right?
you buy like all up front with Verizon?
Yeah, but I just want to add that caveat first of all.
That there are options.
You got to make sure that you're doing. Yeah, you're paying up front.
Right.
But you put an option in the doc, and I agree. The Moto Z3, it's $480, which is I don't know your financial status, but it's a lot better than $900 for a Samsung device.
Yeah.
It's got a 6-inch display, so it has that big display. And because it has mono mods, you might find that it could actually be a rousing device to give to someone who maybe isn't used to having like a smartphone, because they can, you can get these mods that turn it into a Bluetooth speaker and you add extra battery, which is nice and helpful. And also it'll be 5G capable. So when it launches, so it'll be on that.
And those might not even matter much to her, but as far as justifying the cost of $480, like I was looking through the Verizon list of phones, and this was really the only one that wasn't like a Note 8 would be another alternative, but that's $100 less than a Note 9, so it's still really expensive. So I just don't think you're going to find anything for like $200-300. When he said Moto G, that kind of indicated to me the price point that he was possibly looking for. And the Z3 was the closest I could find to that.
You should drop Verizon if you want to keep it. I mean, honestly, just drop them because it's like they're Project Fi.
Yeah, but the thing is that for a parent, when they have a problem, say what you will about Verizon, you just walk into that store and hand it to them.
You're right.
True.
So true. I don't think elderly parent and Project Fi are a good marriage there.
Right.
You're right. Maybe T-Mobile.
Maybe, but I still think Verizon service beats T-Mobile.
Yeah, it's also true. I know.
Yep.
But however, at the same time, if you were able to get her over to T-Mobile, the doors open on the possible devices that fit into that category.
You may even want to get a Z2 if you want to deal with that, because I would take a Motorola phone over.
I mean, Matteo, maybe some of these devices that you've played with are coming to mind, because that's what I think when I think of a carrier in the U.S. that's friendly to like some of these other devices, buying them unlocked off contract.
Yeah, there are lots of devices. I'd say Motorola have a great portfolio all the way up from the E series. So the new E5 Plus, the larger one, is a good option. And from what I see, it's also available on Verizon. Obviously, there's some trade-offs there. You don't get as good a camera, but it's a perfectly usable camera. You get a good screen, good battery. That's a good option as well, rather than the G series, which is maybe a bit overpriced for what it is.
Yeah.
If you have the option and you have the budget, I'd say look into the new Android One devices. You may need to parallel import it from outside the US.
Andrew referred to earlier in the show to know what parallel import means, because we defined it.
You might need to buy it from abroad and pay some import duty if it comes into the country.
Yeah.
But there are plenty of options, and Android One gives you that peace of mind of the Google updates and the security updates. Something that previously you didn't have with some of the other Android spins that some of the OEMs and ODMs come up with.
But that would require for this parent to transition over to T-Mobile, and that might be a bridge too far.
I'd say in that case, Motorola have the E5 available on Verizon at the moment.
That's true.
I saw one in a store the other day. And I was quite impressed, and I thought, well, that's a good option despite the limitations of Verizon.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
In terms of handsets.
Maybe go to the store and see what she likes.
Yeah.
Take her to the store. Also, so she knows who her people are to help her there.
So the Moto E5 Play is available as a prepaid device from Verizon for $95. It's a prepaid device, but you can also have a contract tied to the device, $100. And it's a good overall handset. I've played around with one of these. It's not the best device out there, but you're getting good value.
Motorola low and mid-range phones are a great value. Yeah. I would carry them as a daily driver if I didn't have my Pixel.
Yeah, they work. They do the trick. Screen size on those 5.2 inch for the E5 Play.
You can increase the font size.
Gigantic,
You can increase the font and interface size and go in and see some of the accessibility settings and play around with those and see what might be helpful.
All right. Hopefully we've given you some tips that will work, Tony.
Yep.
The more you know. And now it's time for the arena.
Oh, no. Oh, come on.
Thank you, Victor.
Is there anything sacred? Come on, man. Not cool. Not cool.
Hashtag Murica.
Not cool.
Wow.
That was amazing.
I feel so welcomed when I'm here.
Not cool.
I don't think Rob's very
Jason,
happy
listen,
about this.
I've got multiple offers on that hardware shack. I say we make this move. I say, we're sitting on a landmine. All right, let's look at last week's arena.
Last week, wow, I did not expect that. Last week's poll, let's see here. There were 3 apps, and Bouncer was the winner at 64%. Bouncer was yours, right, Flo?
I wasn't here.
Wait a minute. Who brought in Bouncer? No, sorry, that was Rose. That was Rose's
Yeah,
app.
it was the guest. Yep.
Rose Bahar. Awesome job for the guest. Second place, Radiogram. That was the one that I brought, 26%. Third place, Odd Man at 10%.
Which is a third place, not only for me, but for Burke. So just saying that. Also, I feel like we're doing a disservice to our audio listeners. We were all reacting to the arena intro that was taken over by goats once again because Mateo is with us. But that said, 38 weeks through the arena, Flo, you were out last week, so you were sitting in the basement in last place with 80 points. Jason, you were in third place with 92 points.
Okay.
Climbing up a little, every little bit helps.
Yep.
I'm still in second, even though I came in last. I've still got 96 points. And Mateo represents the guests who are sitting pretty in first place with 109 points. And now, as the calendar keeps flying by and the days, the weeks turn in, summer turns into fall and fall will turn into winter, one must wonder, will anyone be able to beat the guests? At this point, Flo, you might be mathematically eliminated. I don't know. We're going to find out. But
we will certainly find out.
It's going to happen sooner or later. It's going to happen sooner than you think.
I mean, if the guests keep bringing it to the arena the way they have been, then yeah, it definitely will. So we're going to start.
Again, I plead to the audience: do not encourage Mateo. Do not indulge him. Do not encourage him.
Too late.
Jason, take it away.
All right. Actually, let's throw to you first, Flo, because you were out last week.
Yes, and I brought an app today on my Chromebook so that I can show you all what it is that I do with my Chromebook.
Oh, okay.
When I'm not working.
This is different.
It's different. Let's make this so. Let's see. There we go.
There we go.
That
looks good.
So today to the arena, I brought Play on Cloud, and what Play on Cloud is, it's a service that logs you into any of the streaming services that you pay for or that are free, and you can pay for credits, and these credits will record the videos for you, and then you can download them to your device. And so, excuse me, this past summer, I've been working on a home archival project, archiving my photos and my movie library and kind of getting everything from physical media into digital storage. And part of this has included creating a little channel for myself. So I have little channels that play throughout the day when I'm feeling like having TV on in the background, and I like to just have shows play in a certain order. It could be shows that I'm watching currently, or it could be shows that I'm rewatching. As we all know, I do that every year annually with Beverly Hills 90210. Which is why I'm the expert. So what I do with Play On is I will record these things. I'll record from HBO. I'll get my episodes of Insecure and put them in there. I'll go to Hulu and I'll get my episode. Actually, I've got some movies from there recently. I'll go to Netflix and get my Riverdale and get all of that downloaded.
Riverdale.
I can go to, let's see, I know Spectrum is a cable thing people use. If you've got logins for the CW and CBS and NBC, you can also go in there and download. Crackle's got it, PBS, which is great, and YouTube. Oh.
What is this thing running around on your screen?
It's not my app.
It's something
let me
different.
Turn it off.
Is it it's one of those Nico Atsumi things, right?
Hold on, I have to turn it off. I'm sorry. Okay, I can't turn it off. You're just gonna have to deal with it.
Okay.
Sorry.
I just wanted to be clear.
It's another
if it was
Android
in
app
the
I have
or not.
running. It's a little character it puts on your screen. Anyway. This is why I love Chromebook. This is why I wanted to show you my Chromebook. So you do all these are the channels, and you go into the channels. Sorry,
like
I
this one.
refreshed. Let's go into Netflix real quickly. And I'm going into my account, and I don't know. This is only downloaded. I don't know. We're just going to pick something. Bill Nye the Science Guy. So you can go in there into the collection, and then you tap on the episode that you want, and then you add it to a queue. And below it, it'll tell you how many, you can't see this, but I will tell you what it says. It'll tell you how many recording credits you have. They vary in price. We'll get to that in a second, though. Let me show you the rest of the interface. So here are the recordings I have from today. As you can see, I have the first 4 episodes of the first season of Highlander, which I'm putting into a fall playlist. Lots of dark-themed shows I'm putting into the run. I also have Catfish, which I also feel is a very dark show about social media and how it can, affect us.
Huh.
And these are
you
just
watch some dark stuff.
These are just and then over here is my queue, and this is the recordings I have queued. And what you see up here is a loading bar, and this is the current recording. It's currently recording Catfish. So it's playing in the cloud and recording it, just like a DVR would.
Whoa.
So I have to wait the full 41 minutes and 19 seconds I have to wait for the full recording to record before it's ready for me. But after it's done, I have it. So today I downloaded Power Rangers the movie, I, Tonya, some episode of Catfish.
You really
I got
went
Mighty
on
Morphin Power Rangers.
Power Ranger run here.
Yeah, I have like a whole thing.
You have a thing.
And then it'll give you little messages, let you know when stuff is done. And then you can go to the settings and go to a storage plan and see plans. So you can pay for plans or you can buy credits. So it's up to $19 a month for a terabyte of storage. That's what I'm reading for you off of here. It's okay. It's actually just my crap email, so it's fine.
Okay.
It's the email I use when I don't want it connected to my regular email. Or you can buy credits. So what I do is I buy credits. You can get 100 for $30, 4 for $1.99. Today they gave me a deal, 25 for $3.99. So I jumped on it and I bought credits, and that's why I ended up downloading the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
That's what I would have done too.
Yeah. And you can choose your video quality. I just choose standard def because I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't need high quality. I end up downloading it off the Chromebook, and I put it onto the Plex server, media server in our house, and then that's how my Plex server is local only, so it's only playable at my house. But if I'm on the go, I'll put it, I'll transfer it to my Pixel 2.
Does it cost more for HD versus standard?
No, it uses more storage. So if you're paying for storage, then it's going to use up more storage. But I like to watch things on my tiny little Pixel too. So that's why I also get standard def.
Right.
It just looks better.
Plus, your selection of programs is not high def. They were all filmed in NTSC or
Thank
PAL.
you for reminding me how low def our childhood was.
Yes, I've just finished rewatching Stargate. Sorry, not Star Trek Deep Space Nine. And it's noticeable how
full HD,
how on a 4K TV it looks not so good. So great for storage, great for data plans.
So one thing about PlayOn, just to keep in mind, is they will not keep your recordings for you in the cloud. They will remove them after 7 days. So you basically are using the DVR for the reason of playing back offline. Also, you cannot log into anything you don't pay for, don't have a valid subscription for, and you are paying per recording, so it can add up. But it's just a nice, useful thing. I've really enjoyed this process, and that's why I showed it on my Chromebook, because this is not what I use on my phone.
Yeah, it's super cool.
Just a quick question. On your Chromebook, can you store to SD or micro SD?
Yes, I have a little... No, I don't. Not on this one. That's on my other.
Okay, so
Chromebook.
PlayOn enables you to store to.
I plug in a USB and then I move it, because right now unfortunately, Windows file system is not supported by Chrome OS, so I cannot drop it onto the family server.
That
which
might
is
change.
on PC. I know.
I don't know. I don't know if that will change, but
I hope
the
it
plan.
does. That's the other reason I really want it, so I
Yeah.
can so I can transfer files between the family server.
Awesome. Play on Cloud. Great demo. Love it. Looks great. Check it out in the Play Store. All right, Ron, you're up next, and I have your app installed. I'll show it off for you.
Yeah, so I was gonna pick another app this time around, but then I saw this morning, and I was like, oh, that's so neat, and I immediately made the impulse choice to go with it. I know we're seeing a lot of different kind of interfaces and different ways to use gestures in terms of interfacing with our phone, but this app is called Fluid Navigation Gestures. And the idea is that it's really centered around the bottom portion of your phone. And as phones get bigger, we recognize that we only have the, kind of our thumb is the main kind of phone thing that we use. So what this does is it creates this kind of bubble-like guy that pops up on the bottom that you can program. And on the sides, you see Jason kind of pulled it there. So if you swipe up or swipe from the left or right, that little bubble kind of comes out. And depending on how far you pull it or how long you hold it for, it can either be used to make, kind of go forward and back on your phone, or to launch specific apps. So you're able to program the left, the right, and the bottom three areas. So if you kind of get it there, it's kind of
the bottom one is the one that I have a hard time with.
Because of your phone, but yeah. So if you swipe up from the bottom, there you can go bottom left, bottom center, or bottom right, and you're able to. You see that will pull up your notifications pane. If you slide, yep, there it is. Yeah. If you pull it up and slide from the, I think you gotta go above there it is. There it is.
And that would be home.
That's the home one, and then go to the left there. There you go. That launches. What is that? This assistant. So there it is. Now what's great is that you can program these. It's totally customizable. So if you go back to the app itself, Jason, you can. You are able to hide the software navigation keys if you install the version with root, but that's a whole thing. You don't need to root the phone to use this. But here you go on the actions and triggers. They're on the bottom edge. So if you wanted to edit what the bottom left side was, you could tap that one that says assistant. Sorry.
Sorry.
There it goes. So you can enable it or disable it, and you can make it for the quick swipe to launch assistant, or swipe and hold to do voice assistant. And here you can change it to a bunch of different actions. And then if you do swipe and hold, you can launch apps, you can launch shortcuts, fully customizable, and just gives you another way to basically interact with your phone. And once you start using it, as I was using it today, right now it's a little awkward because we're pulling it to show you what it looks like. But once you start using it and see it, it's just like you don't even notice that. It just happens. It's like launch assistant, and the little bubble guy comes up and it does it. And when you're using specific apps, you see that will launch the Play Store. There you go. There it does. It just becomes another way to kind of interface with your phone very quickly. It's one of those gesture-based tools that you adapt to very seamlessly. So it's called Fluid Navigation Gestures. It's free in the Google Play Store. Trust me, watch the video on it, play with it. It's kind of hard to demo. It's one of those things that you just use when you start using it, and you're like, oh, cool, I get it. And it's free, so check it out. Fluid Navigation Gestures.
Nice.
There you go.
Fluid navigation.
Yeah, see. I just love the little. It just like it picks up from the bezel and the little black blob and kind of it looks so cool. So yeah, it's very
nice.
Neat.
Awesome.
It reminds me of something I've seen in some Chinese web browsers in terms of interface.
Yeah, it's a different way to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Pro version, by the way, $1.99. That'll allow you to do a whole bunch of other assigning. I think the more than one app, right? With the free, it's kind of like a trial, but that'll open up all these apps if you do the $1.99. So very nice. Fluid navigation gestures. All right, Matteo, what do you have?
Well, it would be wrong of me to not carry on with the theme.
Yes.
So,
oh man.
So today my app is, let me find it.
Oh darn, he can't find it, ladies and gentlemen. So
too bad.
We're gonna have to. Oh,
so it's Goat Turbo Attack.
Wow.
I thought this was branding for a US phone on Verizon, but Goat Turbo Attack isn't. It's a very simple game with left and right controls, and it's essentially the aim of the goat to create as much mayhem as possible. And as well as potentially being hit by lorries, you can go around and eventually destroy buildings, collect coins, and if you can find them, chilies. And your goat becomes more powerful and spouts flames, creating even more mayhem. So it's a bit of a disaster game for goat enthusiasts. And I really enjoy it because it's very simple. It's just left and right. Steer your goats to mayhem. And the graphics remind me in a way of Crossy Goat, the other game I brought to the arena, in the sense that it's nice and blocky and allows me to...
Very glitchy, too.
Yes. I think this is potentially deliberate, but it's enjoyable. It's a bit retro without being...
enjoyable glitch.
Without being completely retro. So I find this is...
you have your thing, Mateo.
This is fun. Goats. This is ad-supported, as you can see.
Yeah.
Support your devs.
You can unlock the ad-free version with an in-app purchase, but just generally for a bit of fun, with some fun music and background noises, I think Goat Attack Turbo is worthy of a vote in the app arena. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it's not just for myself and the guests, but also for Team GG&G.
Yeah, you guys are on a roll, even with these goat games.
Listen, we have to stop the madness, people.
We might have.
This is called Goat Turbo Attack. If you've been wowed by this demonstration.
If you've been attacked by goats, please. We're really sorry. This is not for you.
Check it out in the Play Store. Goat Turbo Attack. Amazing stuff.
Great. Thank you.
Top notch.
Don't kid. It might come back and win.
The Goatinati. The Illumigoti. No, I don't know. But it's something along those lines.
Going with a Highlander theme that Flo started, I think it was something like Mecha Goat. There can only be one.
Mecha Goat. All right. I've got a game, but it's different. It doesn't have any goats in it. It does have cards in it, because I like me a good card game. This is a new game that just released by Noodle Cake Studios called Flip Flop Solitaire. If you'd like a solitaire game, this takes solitaire and kind of changes the rules a little bit. And Flip Flop, Noodle Cake did Alto's Odyssey. I mean, Noodle Cake just has a ton of games, and you'll recognize half of them if you go to their store page. But anyways, let's see here. How do I show this off easily? When you can get it for free, so there is a free version, or you can pay $2.99. That lifts some of the limitations on some of these other games. You can do a game where it sticks to a single suit, or obviously 2, 3, 4 suits, 5, and just different types of gameplay. I'm going to go with a single suit to kind of give you a sense of how you play this. So it's 5 different stacks, a couple of different cards in each stack. As you can see, I'm just playing single suit, so they're all going to be in the same suit here. And the idea is that you can stack, similar to Solitaire, you can stack up and down on numbers. Of course, I got a really bad hand dealt to me, so there's not much I can do with it. But so I could go 5, I could go 3 to 4, 4 to 5, which is kind of like the standard, right? Or I could go 8. Oh, dang it. I was going to go the other way, 8 to 9. But you can basically do it in either direction. And, the idea with Solitaire is still very similar, right? You want to throw all of those stacks up there and eliminate everything. And I think they say something like 95% of the games that are dealt are totally solvable. You just haven't figured out the right permutation to make it happen, because it gets really difficult as you play. Playing with a single suit is obviously going to be a little bit easier than some of the other versions of this game. But obviously, when I get stumped, I don't know if I'm necessarily stumped here yet, but if I got stumped and I couldn't move things over, I can only move over runs. So see how this is 8, 9, and then 6. If I wanted to move this, it would require me to move only from the 9, and that gets more complicated as you go with more suits. If you play a game with more suits, you can only move runs of that suit. So if you had like 5 different suits here, even if they were a run of 8, 9, 10, 9, 8, 7, 8, 9 or whatever, you can only move the ones that are hearts or the ones that are, clubs or whatever. It's maybe complicated at first to kind of understand, although I think the single suit kind of gives you a pretty easy indication as far as how it plays. And you're really just running against the time, and you want to clear the table as fast as possible. I'll go ahead and quit out of this and just show you real quick what a 5-suit game looks like. I haven't played 5-suit actually. But, I mean, it's pretty much what you expect. And you don't have to alternate the suits, right? So I could have the same suits going there. No big deal. Do I have anything to play here? Oh, I have the 9. I could go ahead and do that. I could bring the 8. Because these are both the same suit, I could actually grab from the 8 and move it across. And so similar rules to Solitaire, but definitely played differently. And it's a lot of fun. It's called Flip Flop Solitaire. It's a really nice game to just kind of have installed for those boring moments on a plane when you need yet another game to, last you 20 minutes until you kind of decide, all right, I want to play something else. Or 4 hours, sure. If you love Solitaire, you might actually play this for 4 hours. It's called Flip Flop Solitaire, and you should check it out. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and hit publish on this, and then I'm going to hit copy on this and then paste on this and then publish because I forgot to do it.
Play-by-play.
All right, there we go. Twit.to/AAA poll 388 is where you go to place your vote for either Play on Cloud, Fluid Navigation Gestures, Goat Turbo Attack, or Flip Flop Solitaire.
And I implore you, don't encourage him, Victor.
Yes, Victor. Are you going to encourage him? Flip Flop Solitaire. Ooh, and look, each one has
that
a
was
single
really
vote.
dramatic. That was a dramatic click.
Yeah, I didn't
The
expect
mouse
that.
got into it. That was pretty good.
Thank you, Victor, for your vote. I appreciate it. The check's in the mail, and we will look into the winner on next week's episode. That's not how you play. That's how I play.
Which is why I'm losing.
I'm losing too, so I'm pulling out the stops. We've reached the end, and Ron, I know that you have to go, so we will wrap this up.
We're good.
We will wrap this up for you. But
let's say goodbye to Mateo properly.
Absolutely. Mateo, always
it's
great
time
to
to
get
say
you in the
goodbye.
studio, man. Thank you.
Thank you for having me again.
Yep.
Again, I will return to the shack when it's available.
Radical. Yes. What do you want to leave people with? Where should people kind of follow all the stuff you're working on?
Well, I'm still working on Tech Travel Geeks with my colleague and friend Lukash. Our publishing is a bit limited at the moment because I'm obviously on vacation here in the US, and Lukash is on vacation in China at the moment. So we'll start publishing more regularly very soon. So expect more Bananas for Scale, Goat Simulator, testing of smartphones, and more
underwear.
travel
And
tips.
Chonies.
Yes.
What's going on?
There's going to be a lot more content coming up soon. We've also have a YouTube channel, Tech Travel Geeks on YouTube. Just as you subscribe to All About Android on YouTube, you can subscribe to us there as well.
Very nice.
And our podcast, I also have the Tech Travel Geeks podcast. And I believe tomorrow I'm recording Miriam Joire's mobile tech show. I'm a guest on her show there as well.
Awesome. Right on. Say hi to Miriam for us. Have fun on the show. Right on. Mateo, it's always great to get you in here. We always know that goats are in store for us, and that makes at least a couple of us happy. Makes one of us a little angry, I think.
It's fine. I can hear his eyeballs rolling from here.
Yes. Thanks again, Mateo. Flo, what about you?
What about me?
What about you?
I don't know. I am taking a little break right now because I had a really busy summer. So
Yeah, you did.
I'm laying a little low on work. But I'll tell you about what I'm doing at my blog at florenceion.com, which will be updated soon because that's the next thing I'm planning on doing once I am fully recovered from whatever sickness knocked me out this month. Yeah, I haven't updated since June, but I'm planning some. Came up with a tagline. I have some blogs planned. I'm planning on going full personal blog mode.
Blogs are hard. Blogs are so hard.
But I grew up in the era of blogs where a lot of us gals were on the internet and we had blog networks and I had a lot of online friends just from blog networks that I belong to.
Yeah.
Because that's how I made friends and we would just write about our life. And so I figure I would like to go back to that for for some inspirational reasons.
Yeah,
So
fair
that's
enough.
what's incubating in the House of Flow right now.
Right on. The House of Flow.
Yeah.
House of Flow.
House of Flow.
What's going on in the House of Ron?
Well, despite it being muggy and humid and gross in New York City and me having a head cold for some dumb reason, second episode of my new podcast launched. Flo, you didn't even know I did this. You go to finalepodcast.com, and today the new episode where me and my co-host Carrie analyze the series finale of Smallville, which was a TV show that was about Superman that ran for 10 years. And Carrie never watched a single episode of it, and I watched all of them, and we talked about it. So if you go to finalepodcast.com, you can listen to that. It's a fun half hour of trying to explain why you spend 10 years watching a dumb superhero TV show. So please go subscribe. Go to Pocket Casts or iTunes or Radio Public, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Go to finalepodcast.com. Check it all out there. Follow me on Twitter at RonXO and on Instagram, RonXO. There.
Awesome.
And if Ron, you need anybody to come on and talk about 90210.
90210, of course.
Well, you see, the whole premise of the show is the whole premise of the podcast is we talk about shows that Carrie's never seen, and she's seen 90210. So it's already.
Thank God.
Has Carrie
thank God.
seen Kardashians? Keeping up with
No,
the Kardashians?
we're done with the Kardashians. I'm done with them. They
Speaking-
Thank
too
God.
problematic. Too problematic.
Speaking of
On this-
Kardashians, how about Star Trek Deep Space Nine?
That could be eligible. There we go. There we go.
Kardashians.
I like that on Android's birthday episode we talk about Florence maturing to move beyond reality television. It's great to hear.
Oh no,
I
beyond the
don't-
Kardashians.
Yeah, I don't
I'm
know
on
if
90
we
Day
said beyond
Fiancé
reality
now.
television.
Well, a guy
That's
can
a
hope.
stretch.
A guy
That's a
can hope.
stretch.
No, it's
But it could be
guy
the
can
beginning of the end. Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
Victor,
Go subscribe.
Thanks to you for, I think for upsetting Ron, I think is what you did. But I thought it was pretty interesting.
Thank you, Victor, for TDing with all the camera angles we had today that I introduced.
And thank you, Alex, for hitting the remote a couple of times. And thanks to Burke for also hitting the remote a couple of times. I think we've thanked everybody. I'm Jason Howell. You can find me here on Twit. I'm just here. Oh, I do start Know How, though, this Thursday. By the way, congratulations. You've reached
you.
the end of
Thank
Internet
you.
of Things Know How, and
Thank
you can
you.
take a break.
That's why
Stand
I'm
down.
I've been napping a lot.
Yes, good. You deserve it. I'm taking over Know How for the next 12 weeks, and I'm going to be doing a gaming-focused season of Know How along with Sam Miskovich from Ars Technica. He was actually out here for a couple of days, and we were recording a bunch of episodes for this series. We had a blast. It was so much fun. So I'm really excited for you guys to check that out. So this Thursday, that begins twit.tv/KH, and you can follow along on all of our gaming escapades as we dive into gaming-focused topics on that show. As for this show, well, that's about all you need to know. We've reached the end. Voicemails can be left at 347-SHOW-AAA. You can send us emails at AAA@twit.tv. Arena apps list at twit.to/Android apps. Twitter, we are at Android Show. Show notes and past episodes. Really, the most important thing is this, twit.tv/AAA. There you will find all the information that you need to know to subscribe, to watch us live every Tuesday starting at 5 p.m. Pacific, and where to go for that, of course, twit.tv/live. All that information is there, including a very large hero image of all of us smiling at you. If you didn't get enough of us smiling at you in this live show right here, just go to the show page and you can get it every single minute of your life. That's it for this week. We'll see you next week on another episode of All About Android. Bye, everybody. Bye.